Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Today guys, we're going to be taking a look at a deck that had been suggested to me. A very cool idea behind this deck. So essentially it's a confusion lock type deck. So what exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's go right ahead and take a look at some of the Pokemon and it should make a bit more sense. So number one, Victory Bell is going to be one of the most crucial Pokemon in our deck with its wafting scent ability through the discarding of a leaf energy actually attached to our Victory Bell. We put our opponent's Pokemon in a confused and poisoned state. So Victory Bell, very important, but of course that's not enough on its own. Our opponent can easily retreat and get rid of that. So that's why we're actually going to be running the Victory Bell in combination with our Dragalge. So with its poison barrier ability, our opponent's poison Pokemon can now no longer retreat. However, our opponent's Pokemon is confused and could potentially flip the heads and still be able to attack. So still not exactly a viable strategy, but that's where we ultimately seal the deal with the usage of our Drowsy with its Sinister Suggestion attack. Our opponent's flips are always going to be considered tails. This is when this deck can get very devastating. The opponent just would not be able to attack us anymore, and whenever they do, they would repeatedly flip tails and hurt themselves. So very potent strategy. Our opponent's poison Pokemon number one cannot retreat. He will be confused, and whenever he tries to attack, he hurts himself. So quite deadly. The one card that we need to watch out for is going to be the Switch card or the Escape Rope card. Now, some other Pokemon that we also have to watch out for is going to be the Verzian EX and Keldeo EX. Normally, that would probably mean we're unfortunately going to lose. However, to try and account for those Pokemon, we are ultimately running 2 copies of Silent Lab. Luckily for us, Keldeo EX and the Verzian EX are both basic Pokemon. So this will essentially nullify all of their special abilities and give our deck a fighting chance. One thing that I do want to mention though is that if we are facing those types of decks in particular, the game is going to crawl at a snail's pace because our Drowsy's Sinister Suggestion attack actually does not dish out any damage whatsoever. So we have to rely on that 10 poison damage in between turns. But nonetheless, though, it is very nice to actually account for those Pokemon, so we are ultimately running a total of 2 copies of the Silent Lab. And ideally, when we don't actually encounter those types of Pokemon, we'll be using the Verbank City Gym as our stadium card to put an additional 2 poison damage counters in between turns. And this will definitely help speed up the game. And yeah, so that is the basic strategy, guys. So ultimately, we're running a 2-2 line of the Snivy and Dragalge. Sorry, the Skrelp and Dragalge, my apologies. A 3-1-3 line of the Bellsprout, Weeping Bell, and Victory Bell, and a total of 4 Drowsies. A lot of weak basic Pokemon. Takes a bit of time to actually get our deck set up going, so that's why we're actually going to be running the maximum number of Hypnotoxic Lasers. Absolutely crucial and important card early on into the game, because we really can't do anything at all early in game. Because I mean, we use the Sinister Suggestion with our Drowsy. Well, what's that really going to do? Not much, because we haven't really done anything. So that's why Hypnotoxic Laser is quite important. We are ultimately running 4 copies of it. Now let's go and actually discuss some of the other item cards. The A-Spec card, Dowsing Machine, highly recommended A-Spec card, just because we have a very high reliance on our item type cards, especially our stadium cards. And since we're only running a mere 2 copies of each, Dowsing Machine could allow us to recycle those and put them back into the field, especially because Silent Lab would probably not be good against certain types of decks, and Verbank City Gym would probably not be good against other types of decks. So that's where Dowsing Machine is very important. So we are ultimately running it as our A-Spec card. We are also running the Evo Soda as another card in our deck. Pretty important card because it allows us to evolve any of our Pokemon into the next stage. Most likely we're going to be using it to evolve our Skrelp into the Dragalge. However, it can also be used to evolve our Bellsprout into the Weeping Bell. Pretty nice card, just because we don't have to discard any cards from our hand through using this card. So for example, Ultra Ball requires us to actually discard 2 cards from our hand, whereas Evo Soda doesn't require that. So pretty nice card. We are ultimately running a single copy of that. We're also going to be running, of course, a total of 2 copies of Rare Candy, because we are running a stage 2 evolution line, namely speaking our Victory Bell. So that's why Rare Candy is there, just to try and speed up the whole sort of evolution process. We are ultimately running a Starling Megaphone as well, just because we have a very high reliance on our Pokemon's special abilities. And Starling Megaphone is there just to counter those Garbodor type decks. So we are running a single copy of that as well. The other cards are pretty self-explanatory, so let's go and briefly discuss them. 2 switches we're running. Briefly want to discuss it because we don't actually want to include any escape ropes in our deck, just since we will most likely be putting our opponents in a confusion lock. And if we were to use the escape rope, that would pretty much be counterintuitive in that the confusion lock from our opponent's Pokemon would be gotten rid of. So that's why switches are a much better option, and we are running 2 copies of that. We're running a total of 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Again, Ultra Ball is just very important just because we have a whole lot of unique types of Pokemon, and we want to be able to get differing amounts of them and at different times. So Ultra Ball, very, very important. We're running the maximum number of copies of this card in our deck, so 4 copies of the Ultra Ball. And then we're running a lot of cards that you guys are quite familiar with, so 2 VS Seekers, and then we're running Stadium cards. Our supporter cards are going to be a total of 2 Colress, 1 Lysander, 1 Lysander's trump card, 4 N, 4 Juniper, a single Skyla, and 1 Teammates. And then we're ultimately running a total of 10 energy cards, 5 of them being Psychic Energies, and 5 of them being the Leaf Energies, sorry, the Grass Energies. So with that, let's actually go and use this deck. I do want to say, guys, that this deck is very, very cool, and that every single win that I've actually had so far with this deck has been the result of my opponent rage quitting. I think our opponent is, I mean, I did see Lightning, Darkness, and Psychic, so I'm assuming it's going to be a Garbodor, Yveltal EX, and the Manectric EX type deck. So that could actually be a little bit troubling for us, just because Garbodor shuts down our Pokemon's special abilities. So it looks like I am most likely right. That Psychic Pokemon is probably going to be the Garbodor. Seems to be increasing in popularity again, so you guys may actually want to increase the number of counts of the Starling Megaphone. And okay, so the Lightning Pokemon was actually okay. So our opponent has Manectric EX and Zekrom as well. So I will be poisoning our opponent's Yveltal EX on our turn, and I'll probably be using the Ultra Ball as well, hoping that we can draw onto one of our supporter type cards. I do want to get some new cards at hand, and let's see what our opponent's actually going to grab out with a Skyla. I'm thinking it may, okay, so actually the Manectric Spirit Link, I was thinking it may have actually been a Hypnotoxic Laser, but luckily that wasn't the case. So let's go and poison our opponent's Yveltal EX, and then let's go and use the Ultra Ball, discard another Ultra Ball at our hand, and a Grass Energy, grab out our Bellsprout. Hopefully we can get him going as well. Let's lay him down and attach a Grass Energy to him, and unfortunately with that we do have to end our turn. Again, really hoping that we draw onto one of our supporter cards. Luckily for us, our opponent didn't actually have any energy cards, so that the Yveltal EX can't actually knock out our Skrelp just yet. Okay, so our opponent's going to use the Switch and the Sycamore. Again, the Mega Manectric EX can't actually attack just yet. But really hoping that we draw into one of our supporter cards, guys. Didn't exactly have the greatest starting hand. And okay, so that Yveltal EX is going to come out again, so I will go and poison it one more time. Personally, I think the Mega Manectric EX as the sort of active Pokemon would have been a wiser choice on our opponent's part, just because he could easily retreat, but looks like that's not what our opponent was thinking. So let's go and Hypnotoxic Laser that Yveltal EX. Luckily, we do flip onto the heads. Let's use the N. Awesome, as we have just top decked into that. Okay, so now we have our Dragalge that Yveltal EX can no longer retreat, and we'll probably be using our Evo Soda on our next turn to get our Weeping Bell going, the Victory Bell going as well. So now all we really need is our Drowsy with the Sinister Suggestion, and then our deck can really start kicking it into gear. So thankfully our Dragalge is going to prevent that Yveltal EX from being able to retreat. But if our opponent actually has a Muscle Band, our Dragalge will unfortunately get knocked out. Hoping that that is not the case. Our opponent has used the N as well. Awesome, looks like our Dragalge is going to survive. So quite happy about that. And okay. So no, sorry, let's actually bring back that the Bellsprout into our hand. Let's actually go and evolve this Bellsprout into the the Victory Bell, and because this one is almost completely set up already, and thinking if I'd rather use the N or the Juniper. I think we're actually going to go with the N right now, guys. I don't want to be discarding our last Bellsprout as well. You never know, we may actually need it later on, so let's go right ahead and use the N. And okay, so I could retreat the Dragalge, which is probably what I'm going to do. Just thinking what I'd actually like to bring out, guys, because that Poison Lock is absolutely crucial to our deck. So let's actually go and discard the Colress for now. Actually, no, Colress is probably going to be used next turn, so let's actually go and discard the N and the Silent Lab. Yes, because Darkrai EX would not be useful from here on out anyways, because our opponent is going to be Poison Locked. So let's actually go and grab onto another, just thinking what I'd actually like to grab onto. Yeah, let's actually go and grab onto another Victory Bell and evolve that Weeping Bell as well. So now we can actually put our opponent in a confused state, and then we will be retreating our Dragalge as well. So let's actually go and use Wafting Scent, put that Pokemon confused, and then retreat it to bring out our Drowsy. Unfortunately, our Drowsy can't really do anything right now, and our opponent could potentially flip the heads when trying to attack us with his Yveltal EX, which I'm hoping is not the case. But it may just happen. Okay, so our opponent is actually going to bring out a Seismitoad EX as well. So let's see, I think our opponent is going to take his chances and try to attack with his Yveltal EX. Hopefully he flips a Tails, and then we can get our Sinister Suggestion going. Okay, so our opponent's actually going to use the Escape Rope as well. And I mean that Seismitoad EX is probably going to come out. But let's go and bring out one of our Victory Bells, I guess, for now. Don't want to get our Dragalge knocked out just yet. Again, just because he's very, very important. So our opponent actually going to bring out the Manectric EX. Okay, so our Dragalge is unfortunately going to get knocked out through the Overrun attack. And I'll actually be using the Starling Megaphone and then using the Colress. So let's actually go and get rid of all those item type attachments. Let's use the Colress. And okay, so first of all, we can go right ahead and poison that Manectric EX, but unfortunately our opponent can retreat, so we really need to grab out our second Scralp as well. So we are going to have to end our turn, unfortunately. I'll probably be using the Colress on our next turn, and let's see what our opponent's actually going to do. I'm thinking he's probably going to retreat and bring out his Yveltal EX and try to knock out our Victory Bell. Again, pretty, not the greatest start for us. But our opponent may just evolve his Manectric EX into the Mega Manectric EX. I'm assuming that's what he's hoping to do, and hoping that that's not the case. Yeah, so our opponent is actually going to so that Mega Manectric EX is going to come out. So hopefully we can get our second Dragalge out, guys, and that Escape Rope is ultimately our weakness, as well as those switches. So I may be very, very careful from here on out before we actually use the Lysander's trump card, because that allows our opponent to actually be able to recycle those types of cards as well. We have actually given up 3 of our grass energies though, so we may just need to use the Lysander's trump card later on, but not just yet. So let's actually go and use the Colress, hope for some better cards at hand. And okay, so let's go and attach the Psychic Energy to our Drowsy for the time being. And I could poison our opponent's Pokemon, but he can easily retreat it. So I don't think that's what I'm going to do just yet. I could grab out an Ultra Ball as well and grab onto a Scralp, which I think is actually what I'm going to do, guys. So let's actually go and get rid of the Lysander for now, and the Skyla as well, and grab onto an Ultra Ball just so that we can grab onto our Scralp. Again, we're unfortunately having to give up a whole lot of cards in our hand, so let's actually go and give up the Lysander's trump card and the N as well. We do have the VS Seeker, so hopefully shouldn't be too big of an issue. Let's grab out that Scralp and then lay him down into our bench. And unfortunately with that, we do have to end our turn. Just seeing if we still have any other VS Seekers remaining in our deck, because I have used one, and I've also used sorry, I have one in hand, and I have just used the Dowsing Machine. So okay, I can use the this VS Seeker at hand to actually grab onto, say, a Colress or something like that. Hoping that we can get our sort of strategy kicking into gear all over again. And unfortunately that Mega Manectric EX is able to dish out a whole lot of damage to us and retrieve those energy type cards as well. So not exactly the greatest situation for us. Let's actually go and bring out our Drowsy, and hopefully we can actually get our whole sort of strategy kicking into gear. So let's bring out the Drowsy and lay down the Verbank City Gym. Awesome, looks like we do have the Evosoda, so our Dragalge is finally going to come out as well. Let's lay him down, and okay, so I could grab out the N, but I think the Colress would be a safer bet. So let's actually go and grab out the Colress, lay it down, and then we are going to get some new cards. And so now that we've just gotten a new hand, we can actually put our opponent's Pokemon in the Confusion Lock. So let's go and use the Wafting Sand, put that Mega Manectric EX into its confused state, and then let's use the Sinister Suggestion. So now our opponent's Pokemon are at the mercy of the flip of the coins, which are actually going to be Tails, just because of our Sinister Suggestion. Don't really think our opponent has any more switches or escape ropes in his deck. So let's see what he's actually going to grab out of his VS Seeker. So it looks like it's going to be a Colress. And I may just try to deck out our opponent, because I don't really want to use the Lysander's trump card. So see, it looks like our opponent is not aware right now that all of his flips are going to be the tails. And we do have a total of a mere 5 grass energies in our deck, guys. So I'm actually going to use the Ultra Ball to get rid of both of our Junipers. Yeah, I don't really think I'll be using it, just to see if we have any more grass energies. Okay, so we have one more grass energy. So okay, so we are going to just sort of stall for now. So let's actually go and use the Sinister Suggestion one more time. And our opponent's Mega Man EX is still unable to do anything at all right now. Again, if he tries to attack, he's going to do 30 damage to himself. Don't think our opponent is running any more switches or anything like that. Okay, so he's going to Hypnotoxic Laser our Drowsy. So hopefully I can draw into a switch or something like that. And let's see if that Mega Man EX is going to try and attack again. So yes, our opponent is going to try and attack again. He's still unaware of the Sinister Suggestion. So I could retreat our Drowsy, which is probably what I'm going to do. So let's go and attach another Psychic Energy to him. And then we're going to go and retreat him to bring out our Bellsprout. Unfortunately, that's an easy prize for our opponent, but that Drowsy is very, very important. And again, I'm really trying not to use the Lysander's trump card. And with that, we are going to go and end our turn. Our opponent's Mega Man EX is going to get knocked out, and we'll draw onto 2 of our prize cards. Okay, so now we've just drawn onto the teammates, which is very, very nice, because as soon as our Bellsprout does actually get knocked out, I'll be using it. Okay, so our Dragalge is actually going to get knocked out. A very key part of our deck. So let's see what we can actually do from this point on, guys. Our opponent is playing it smart, and he realized that the Dragalge was sort of the most troubling Pokemon for him to deal with. So let's actually go and bring out the Drowsy for now, and lay down another Drowsy. Let's Hypnotoxic Laser that Manectric EX, and let's use the VS Seeker, see what we can actually grab onto. So the Grass Energy and the switch as well. I mean, I'm hoping that our opponent decks out, but I don't think it's possible. I think he's probably going to win in the remaining 2 turns. So let's go and actually attach a Psychic Energy to our Drowsy for now, and then use the Sinister Suggestion, and hope that our opponent's Pokemon remains asleep. Awesome, looks like he is going to remain asleep, so our opponent may just deck out. I mean, if that's how we win, I'm going to take it anyways, but I'm not sure how many of our ends our opponents actually used. Okay, so I actually used all of his ends, so he may just deck out. So it looks like that Hypnotoxic Laser may have just been able to save the game for us. Okay, so it looks like the Bellsprout is going to get Lysandered, and that Mega Man EX is going to wake up. So we're very close to decking out as well. Just seeing what we should actually do right now, guys. I could put that Mega Man EX confused, but I mean, our opponent can also easily retreat it as well. So let's actually go and switch into one of our Drowsies. I guess let's use the Sinister Suggestion anyways, and let's see what our opponent is actually going to do. I mean, for sure he's going to retreat, but if he can't actually win this turn, we're actually going to win by our opponent decking out. I mean, he has 0 cards remaining, so yes, looks like we are actually going to win through our opponent decking out. A very, very close game, but again, you guys haven't seen the deck as well as I'd like you guys to, so let's go and actually find ourselves another opponent. Very atypical win, not exactly how I wanted to win, but we'll take the victory anyway. So let's go and actually find ourselves a second opponent. And awesome, looks like we got an Acrobike, pretty useless sort of mystery prize in my opinion, but that's okay. We are going to find ourselves another opponent anyways. This one hopefully where you guys can see the strategy a little bit better. So you're not using that Lysander's trump card quite possibly just saved us. And okay, so it looks like we're going to start first. That's kind of nice. Our opponent's running a full-blown water type deck, so I'm assuming it's probably going to consist of Pokemon like Keldeo EX and Blastoise. Just a thought, not really sure. Okay, so the Keldeo EX, of course, let's actually go and prevent him from actually being able to rush in, because that Keldeo EX could mean a lot of trouble for us. And I'm going to attach a Psychic Energy to our benched Drowsy for now, and with that we are actually going to go and end our turn. That Keldeo EX with its Russian is something that we want to prevent, because it can give our Dragalge a very, very difficult time, which is absolutely something that we don't want. Our opponent's actually going to attach the Floatstone as well, but okay, sorry, we actually don't have him poison locked just yet. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So okay, that N is going to help us out though, so let's see what I would actually like to grab from this point on. Okay, so the Scrap would be useful because we do have the Dragalge at hand, so let's actually go and use it to discard the Startling Megaphone, I guess. No, actually I want to use the Startling Megaphone to get rid of that float zone. So let's actually use it to get rid of the Weeping Bell and the Lysander. Grab onto our Skrelp. Just seeing if we have, okay, awesome. So we have pretty much all of our cards. 2 Drowsies, so 2 of our Drowsies are actually prized. Sorry, no, 2 of them are actually on the field. My apologies about that, guys. Let's go and lay down the Skrelp, use the Startling Megaphone, and then with that we will go and end our turn. And hopefully I can actually bring out our Dragalge before our opponent's Keldeo EX actually has the chance to retreat, because then he will be poison locked and sort of unable to really do anything. That Keldeo EX will unfortunately knock out our Drowsy though. So hoping that we can, okay, so our opponent is actually probably going to grab out the N, which I'm kind of happy about, just because we don't have a lot of nice cards in our hand as well. Awesome, looks like we also have the Teammates card in our hand, so we can still use it to grab out our Dragalge and prevent that Keldeo EX from actually being able to retreat, which is what we're going to do. Again, our setup is really where we sacrifice a lot of our prize cards, but afterwards it shouldn't be too big of an issue. So let's go and lay down the Bellsprout for now, and see what I would like to do. So I can use, you know what, we're actually going to use the Juniper instead, guys. So let's actually give up the Skyla and the Teammates to grab onto one of our Dragalges now that Keldeo EX can no longer retreat. And okay, so I could attach a, you know what, let's give up that Psychic Energy as well. I mean, our Pokemon's second attack is pretty useless, Psyshot, don't really want to be using it, so let's go and use the Professor Juniper. And okay, so we have another Skrelp and a Drowsy at hand. Let's go and attach a Grass Energy to our Bellsprout and use the Sinister Suggestion anyways, in case our opponent uses any sort of flip-reliant cards, because Sinister Suggestion is not only limited to our opponent's attacks, it's actually limited to cards such as Hypnotoxic Laser and things like that as well, so still kind of cool. And unfortunately our Drowsy is going to get knocked out. So we do have a rare candy in our discard pile, so I could bring out, yeah, so you know what, I will actually bring out our Victory Bell, and then I will be putting our opponent Keldeo EX into the confusion state, really hoping that we draw onto one of our Psychic Energies as well. So let's actually go and give up a Grass Energy and our Colress, grab onto the rare candy and bring out our Victory Bell, really hoping that we can actually get the confusion lock going from this turn on. Let's use the N, and awesome, so now we can actually put our opponent's Pokemon in a confused state, lay down a Bellsprout, and then use the Sinister Suggestion to prevent our opponent's Keldeo EX from actually being able to attack our Pokemon, or being able to retreat as well, thanks to that Dragalge and thanks to our Silent Lab. If our opponent does draw into another Keldeo EX, he can't use the Russian ability. So pretty nice. Hoping that opponent doesn't really run a lot of Stadium type cards. I mean, usually we don't see them. That Float Stone is absolutely not going to do anything. A lot of people seem to overlook Dragalge, and a lot of people also seem to overlook the fact that our Sinister Suggestion essentially prevents them from actually being able to do anything. So that Blastoise is going to come out, but again, can't really do anything right now. See, our opponent is actually unaware of the Confusion Lock, which is what really makes this deck so powerful. Let's go and lay down our Drowsy for now, attach a Psychic Energy to him, evolve our secondary Bellsprout, and let's see what we actually have in our discard pile. So I'm actually going to go and grab out the Colress, hope for some nicer cards at hand, and let's see what we actually draw into. So awesome, so an Evo Sword at hand, I'll probably be using it to evolve our Weeping Bell into the Victory Bell in our next turn. So let's go and use the Sinister Suggestion one more time. Again, as long as our opponent's not really aware, he can't really do anything. I'm assuming he doesn't actually run any switches or escape ropes in his deck, just because that Keldeo EX can absolutely rush in and out, which is actually to our advantage because we're completely nullifying him for the time being. So let's actually go and use the Evo Soda, grab out the Victory Bell, and awesome, so now we have 2 Victory Bells. Let's actually go and attach another Grass Energy to our Victory Bell as well. And I think I'm just going to go right ahead and use the Sinister Suggestion. Don't really want to be using any of our supporter cards in case it may actually help our opponent, and I don't really want to be discarding all these cards from our hand either. So okay, so that Keldeo EX is going to die shortly, so let's actually go and use Sinister Suggestion one more time. And I mean, our opponent's okay, so our opponent's actually going to Rage Quit. Again, something quite common that you guys will be seeing a lot. Let's go and I think you guys have a basic idea of how this deck is going, but let's go and actually find ourselves one last opponent. Just giving you guys a very sort of detailed look into the usage of this deck. Again, I'm quite content with it. Seems very cool, really unique strategy. Our first game though was a very sort of undeserved win, I guess you could say, but I still want you guys to sort of appreciate this deck for what it is. Still think that it can perform quite nicely from time to time. So let's go and actually start off with our Bellsprout as our active Pokemon. I will be poisoning our opponent's Suicune. Luckily that Suicune safeguard ability is going to be completely useless because we're not running any EX Pokemon in our deck whatsoever. So another water type deck that we're okay, so sorry, a fire type deck. I was assuming our opponent actually had a couple water energies as well, but I'm guessing that Suicune is just used for his safeguard ability. Possibly, okay, so maybe it's going to attack as well. Not really sure. Don't really think our opponent has the nicest cards in his hand, but I'm probably going to use the N anyways. Don't really want to be giving up all these very important cards, so let's go and use the N. And okay, so now we do have the Ultra Ball, so let's use that to actually get rid of a Skyla and the N. Grab out our Scralp. Again, very important Pokemon. We do want to get him out nice and early. Put that opponent in the Poison Lock, and then with that we are going to go and end our turn. So I'll probably be using the N again on our next turn. Don't really foresee that Suicune being able to attack. I'm assuming our opponent is just attached the fire energies on him to actually allow it to retreat. Again, I do want to apologize though guys if this battle is a little bit longer than you guys are used to, but still a very fun deck, so I hope you guys do appreciate it at the same time. Yeah, so it looks like our opponent's not running any water energies whatsoever. So he may actually attach another fire energy to Suicune and then retreat it, and then probably try to blacksmith it onto his into his Reshurams, which I'm hoping is not the case. I mean, if our opponent does actually have a blacksmith at hand, okay, awesome, looks like he actually doesn't. So let's go and actually poison that Reshiram as well, and then let's go and use the N. And okay, so we do have the Evo Soda, so now we can finally prevent our opponent's Pokemon from actually being able to retreat. And I don't really want to be attaching the Psychic energies. Again, we're not running a lot of energies in our deck, so we do have to be quite mindful of our energy count. So with that, we are unfortunately going to have to end our turn. Unfortunately, that Bellsprout would take double the amount of damage due to that fire weakness, so that Reshiram could spell a little bit of trouble for us. And I'm probably going to use the VS Seeker on our next turn to grab out our another N. Really not getting any of our Drowsies and the important sorts of cards that we need. So let's see what our opponent does from here on out. So, okay, so it doesn't look like that Reshiram will be able to attack. Our opponent has used the Charin, so of course there's no blacksmith out there. I think I'm going to try and put our opponent's Pokemon to sleep, hoping that we get a heads. Awesome, looks like we do. Hopefully our opponent gets a tails, just until we can actually get our line set up. Let's go and use the N again. I don't really want to be giving up all those very important cards, and of course it'll lower the number of cards in our opponent's hand a little bit as well. And okay, so we have another Scrub and another Bellsprout. Okay, we're not getting our Drowsies for some reason. I'm a little upset about that, but let's go and actually attach a Grass Energy to our bench Bellsprout. And unfortunately, if our active Bellsprout does happen to get knocked out, which unfortunately is probably going to be the case, we will be bringing out our Scrub, and I'll probably be using the Juniper as well. Really hoping that we draw onto our Drowsies. Okay, so our opponent's actually going to use Energy Retrieval. Maybe he's not running any Blacksmith in his deck. Again, I'm not really sure, but he is running the Pyroar, but that's okay though. Pyroar is still affected by Confusion and things like that, and our Sinister Suggestion will still prevent that Pyroar from actually being able to attack, which is kind of nice, because I mean Pyroar only prevents damage but not sorts of special conditions or anything like that, so that is nice. That Reshiram is unfortunately going to knock out our Bellsprout, hit for a massive 140 damage. So let's go and bring out our Scalp temporarily, really hoping that we draw onto something nice, guys. Okay, so Teammates, just the card that we needed, so we can use it to grab out a rare candy and a Drowsy as well, which is what we're going to do. Happen to be the next two cards in our deck though, so kind of funny at the same time. I could have used the Juniper instead, but anyways, I'm not really complaining. So let's go and bring out the Victory Belt. Of course, better to be safe than sorry. And then let's go and attach a Psychic Energy to our Drowsy. I will be using the Wafting Scent anyways, hoping that our opponent flips a Tails and that Reshiram hurts himself. Again, our opponent's Reshiram can no longer retreat thanks to our Dragology, and we do have the Juniper at hand, so we'll be able to draw onto some nice cards. Hopefully I can retreat that Scalp as well. It is kind of nice to have 2 Dragologies. It's just for safety measures in case any of them happens to get Lysandered out. So let's see if our opponent is going to take the risk and try to attack. I mean, at this point, there is the chance that our opponent may actually get the heads, but as soon as our Drowsy is actually out, that chance is pretty much nullified thanks to our Drowsy's Sinister Suggestion attack. So Blacksmith is going to come out. Our opponent is getting his Pyro deck reared up and geared up and ready to go, and let's see if that Reshiram is going to try and attack. And I'm thinking he will. Our opponent's going to push his luck and get the heads, but from here on out, guys, it's only going to be tails now that our Drowsy is in charge. So let's go and use the Juniper, and okay, so now we can increase the poison damage to our opponent's Reshiram, which is absolutely what we're going to do. And then let's go and attach another Grass Energy to our Victory Bell and use the Sinister Suggestion, preventing that Reshiram from actually being able to flip the heads. And if our opponent does decide to attack, we'll be able to poison our opponent's next Pokemon as well, which is kind of nice thanks to that increased poison damage, and of course the confusion hurting our opponent's own Reshiram. So I'm thinking he's gonna attack, guys. Not a lot of people actually see through this strategy. Very, very unusual. So chances our opponent is going to try and push his luck, attack, get details, and knock out his own Pokemon. And yeah, so pretty cool deck, guys. I really do love it. So let's see which of our opponent's Pokemon are going to come out. I will be attaching another Grass Energy to our Victory Bell and then using our Wafting Scent. So the Pyro is finally going to come out, which I'm kind of happy for. So let's go and use Wafting Scent. Pyro is going to be put into the confused state. And then let's go right ahead and use the N. Because I mean, I do want to get some more of our Drowsies. We have a whole lot of Psychic Energies. Don't really want to be using our last VS Seeker nor our Professor Juniper, because you never know, we may want to use our teammates again. So let's go and use the N and see what we draw into. Okay, so no Drowsies unfortunately, but that's okay, not too big of an issue right now. Our opponent's probably going to try and attack. Again, doesn't look like he's sort of seen through this strategy. A lot of people don't really sort of figure it out until much later. Opponent's going to use the Tierno, and let's see what he does from here on out. Again, the only card that our opponent can really sort of save our opponent is cards such as Switch and Escape Rope. If our opponent has decided not to run any of them, then he's pretty much unfortunately going to lose the game. Not a lot of hope for him. Again, Confusion is going to hurt our opponent's Pyro one more time. Awesome, looks like we do have the Ultra Ball, so let's actually use it to grab onto another one of our Drowsies. It doesn't really matter what we discard from our hand because I'm going to use the Juniper anyways. So let's go and lay down that second Drowsy. Second Drowsy. Attach a Psychic Energy to him and then use the Juniper. And awesome, looks like we have another Bellsprout in hand as well, and some more energies because that Victory Bell also always needs to have an energy attached to him just so that his Wafting Scent can repeatedly be used. And now our opponent is actually going to get the opportunity to attack. If he has another Fire Energy, that Reshiram could hit us for a lot of damage using the Blue Flare attack, but then we're going to go right ahead and put our opponent's Pokemon to sleep again. So let's see what our opponent actually does. Okay, yeah, so that Reshiram is going to knock out our Drowsy. Still, though, I'm not particularly worried. Our strategy has finally been kicking into gear. I just need to be a little bit mindful, though, of how many Grass Energies we give up, because, again, the Victory Bell is very important to our deck's integrity. So let's go and actually attach another Grass Energy to him. See how many Grass Energies we've actually discarded. So only 2. I may need to Lysander's trump card later on, so I could use the Ultra Ball as well. I think no. Okay, so I evolved him straight into the Weeping Bell. Do I have any Weeping Bells in our discard pile? No, so I could actually grab out a Weeping Bell, and I don't think I'm gonna do that just yet. So let's actually just go and use the oops. No, guys, sorry, that was a big mistake on my part. I should have used the Wafting Scent, and our opponent's going to use the Skyla. Thank God that Reshiram is not going to be able to kill our Drowsy during our opponent's turn. Sorry guys, that was a very big mistake on our part. Could have ended up in absolute tragedy for us. I wasn't really paying attention. I assumed that we had already sort of confused our opponent's Pokemon, but that wasn't the case. Luckily, of course, that Reshiram's only going to be able to hit us for 20. His Blue Flare attack just was not ready yet. So thankfully, it wasn't a sort of game loss type of mistake. So let's go and poison that Reshiram. Let's lay down our Verbank City Gym, and okay, so I think I want to actually grab onto another Drowsy, just in case we make a stupid mistake like that again, which is absolutely something that I don't want. So let's go and actually discard the Hypnotoxic Laser and the Switch as well. Grab onto another one of our Drowsy. So we actually don't have the Weeping Bell, so I'm assuming it's prized. Let's go and attach a Psychic Energy to our Drowsy, and I may just use the VS Seeker this turn to grab onto something. Yeah, our opponent has a whole ton of cards in his hand, but I don't really think anything is useful. But nonetheless, let's actually go and grab out an N anyways. Reduce the number of cards that our opponent has in his hand. And okay, looks like we have another Ultra Ball. Not really all that useful right now, so let's go and use Sinister Suggestion. And now that Reshiram is going to hurt himself. And yeah, so we do actually have one of our Scrubs in our discard pile. That Ultra Ball is completely useless unless we actually happen to have a rare candy in our hand as well, just so that we can actually bring out the Bellsprout. I mean, we could also use the Ultra Ball to grab out another Drowsy, but I believe we already have 2 of our Drowsies in our discard pile yet. Or one of them may actually be prized, because I don't think I had actually seen any more Drowsies. Okay, so our opponent's actually going to Lysander out our Dragalge. And okay, so really can't afford to let our Dragalge die. How many switches? Okay, so we actually have both of our switches in our discard pile, so really hoping for an energy card, guys. So let's go and use the Colress. And okay, awesome. So it looks like we are going to get an energy card. So let's go and attach that to our Dragalge, retreat him, and then bring out our Drowsy again. Let's use the Sinister Suggestion ability, and that Reshiram will be dying on our opponent's turn, which will allow us to poison our opponent's next Pokemon as well. So as you guys can see, this deck is a very, very painfully annoying deck to deal with. Been fortunate enough to win quite a few battles now, especially our first one. I would say was highly undeserved, but really can't complain. Okay, so awesome. Looks like we have the Lysander's trump card. I think that is what we're actually going to lay down. So let's actually go and use the Wafting Scent to put our opponent's Reshiram to sleep. And okay, let's go and use the Lysander's trump card. Actually, I could grab on. Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to go and grab on to another one of our our Weeping Bells first, guys. Our rare candy. So let's actually go and discard the Ultra Ball and the Silent Lab to grab onto the rare candy before I actually use the Lysander's trump card. Let's go and evolve our Pokemon into the Weeping Bell, and then use the Lysander's trump card. Really hoping that we get some more grass energy, guys, because then our strategy sort of is unable to work. So let's go and use the Sinister Suggestion all over again and prevent that Reshiram from actually really being able to do anything. We do have the Lysander as well. Again, though, our opponent can't really do anything. We are matched at 3 prizes each, but nonetheless, our opponent is unfortunately not really able to do anything whatsoever right now. Really am loving this deck. I think you guys will as well. Very fun if you guys are trying to mess with your opponent, especially since a lot of opponents, you'd be surprised, even very good opponents don't seem to catch on to our Drowsy Sinister Suggestion until much too late into the game. So let's see what our opponent's going to do. He may just rage quit. Okay, so our opponent is actually going to try and push on, but unfortunately he still can't really do anything right now. Let's use Sinister Suggestion again. Hopefully that Reshiram doesn't die too quickly, because I do need another grass energy for Victory Bell's Wafting Scent to really be put to use. Okay, awesome. Looks like we have just top decked onto one of our grass energies, so let's go and attach that to our Victory Bell and then use Sinister Suggestion, and that Reshiram is going to get knocked out, so we are going to be able to draw onto one of our prize cards. Our opponent doesn't have any fire energies in his discard pile, so I don't actually foresee him being able to perform a one-hit knockout on us using the Blue Flare. Looks like Pyro is going to come out, but again, can't really help our opponent right now, because we can very easily put him into the Confusion, Sleep, and then repeatedly use Sinister Suggestion to prevent our opponent from actually being able to attack. So let's go and lay down a Drowsy, attach a Psychic Energy to him, use the Wafting Scent, and then we're going to go right ahead and use the Juniper for some new cards at hand. Let's go and use the Sinister Suggestion and prevent that Pyro from actually being able to wake up. Don't really want to be using the N, but I do want to be able to draw onto another one of our grass energies, again because our deck is highly reliant on our Victory Bell's Wafting Scent ability. So let's see what our opponent is going to do right now. I don't really think there is much that he can do, just because our deck has essentially nullified him from actually being able to do anything. So we do have the Evo Soda, but absolutely useless. I mean, no Ultra Balls or anything like that are going to help us from here on out. I do want to draw onto another grass energy though, so let's use the Skyla and see if there's anything that could potentially allow me to grab onto grass energy. I think Colress would be a nice sort of card to actually grab into. And yeah, so with that, let's go right ahead and use another Sinister Suggestion, and that Pyro will be dying on our turn when it hits our turn again, and hopefully we're able to draw onto another grass energy during that time. But again, it doesn't really look like our opponent can make a comeback. He still needs 3 prize cards to be able to win, and we're actually seeing an EX Pokemon come out as well. Unfortunately, it's a little too late for our opponent, and I'm assuming that Reshiram is probably going to come out. Maybe that Charizard EX as well. Again, not really sure though, but I will be using the Colress on our turn, hoping that we draw onto one of our grass energies. So okay, looks like the Reshiram is going to come out, so let's actually go and poison him, just in case we're not able to draw onto our grass energies. Put him to sleep at least. Okay, so we are going to flip 2 tails. I'm actually going to get rid of a lot of useful cards in our hand first, so let's go and use the Evo Soda, absolutely useless. Let's use the Ultra Ball as well to discard our Silent Lab and an N as well, and grab onto anything. Again, doesn't really matter right now. And then let's go and use the Colress, and awesome, looks like we have just drawn onto one of our grass energies. Let's use Wafting Scent to put our opponent's Reshiram to sleep, Sinister Suggestion, and again, our opponent is unable to do absolutely anything right now. If he tries to attack, he will flip a Tails, and let's see if he actually complains. Because I have had a few players. Okay, so we're gonna get a rage quit. So thank you guys very much for watching. Sorry if it was a bit of a long video, but very enjoyable deck. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's just see what we got into the box. And it looks like it's 4 tournament tickets. Again, thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.